Hey guys, what's going on? It's Luke from Madman Music and I'm here again to give you another video. And today we're going to be talking about studio terminology and some of the words you may hear being thrown around a professional recording studio. Now, these words are really great to understand because it means that you'll be able to converse more clearly with the engineer, and it's also a good idea to just generally know what people are talking about. So without further ado, let's discuss some of the terms that you will hear. Okay, I hope you have a pen and paper ready because we're going to go through a fair few now. So the first one is click track, and a click track sounds a little something like this. And it is something that you use to keep yourself in time whilst recording. I would get used to hearing that because as a recording artist, you're going to be hearing a lot of that. Another term is automation. Automation is where you change something as it progresses. You automate an action. An example, if I show you in here, so let's say I wanted to automate the volume and I wanted it to turn down, I would grab it here and I would pull it down. And so what will happen is as it moves across the screen, it's going to go down in volume. That's what automation is, and it's a very powerful tool that can breathe a lot of life into music. Studio desk. It is a desk that you find in the studio, but it's not just any old desk that you sit and write on. No, a studio desk typically has faders on it, and these faders will be used to change the volume of certain tracks to assist the engineer in mixing the song. Tracking. Tracking is where you actually go and record something. You go and track something. You take your vocals, your guitar, your piano, your drums, and you actually record it into the computer. Typically, when engineers are talking to an artist, they'll say, let's go and track your vocals. That means it's time to go in and start recording your vocal. XLR. If you don't know what an XLR is, it is the thing that connects the microphone to the computer. They look a little something like this. They have 3 prongs on the male end and 3 inputs on the female end just there. XLRs are the most common form of connection in a studio. It's how you wire up all the microphones and your speakers to the main computer as well. Digital simply means the process in how we view and how something is recorded. In the world of digital editing, anything that's digital is made up of binary codes, zeros and ones. This is where it gets a little bit technical. But everything that is digital works off of these numeric values. And these numeric values can all be altered and changed to affect what we hear and how we process different things, such as how you sing, how you play guitar. Another term related to digital is analog. And analog, rather than being based on numeric values and binary code, where everything is 0101. Analog is a continuous recording, a continuous source of sound. A lot of people often claim that when you listen to analog, it has a slightly warmer tone because when you record digital, it takes snapshots. Let's say you're recording a guitar. If you're recording the guitar digitally, what it's doing is it's taking snapshots of the sound and putting it onto the computer. However, when you record analog, the signal is continuous. There is no gaps. There is no snapshot. It is all one continuous snapshot of the guitar being recorded, which is why people argue there tends to be a warmer, nicer sound to analog. Editing. Editing is where you take something that you've recorded, made, and you change it. You alter the parameters. You make it sound different. You chop it. You stretch it. You mix it. You reverse it. Whatever you choose to do, editing is the process in which you change and make changes to hopefully make the song what it's meant to be. Dynamic range. When you hear the term dynamic range, it often refers to the volume. Let's take a quick look at a vocal example here. Here is an example in my project here, and you can see that if we take a listen to this,
I wait for an opportunity to escape.
you can see on the waveform here that it starts off loud and goes quieter, quieter, loud, and quieter. This is the dynamic range. It starts off loud and gets quieter. And sometimes we like having dynamic range because it adds a lot of life to a song. It gives it a lot of character. However, in some songs, we want slightly less dynamic range. If the dynamic range is too different and goes all over the place, the recording can sound inconsistent and a little bit jarring to the listener. One of the ways that we can fix that is by using compression, another term you'll probably hear in the studio. Compression is where you take the loud parts of an audio file, like we just listened to, and you squash it down, and in turn, that makes the quieter bits seem louder. So you get a more consistent sound across the entire waveform. I'll give you an example here. If I apply a compressor to this audio file,
I wait for an opportunity to escape.
if I bounce this in place, if you compare the two, you can now see that this bottom one here has less of a dynamic range. Everything is a little more consistent apart from the starts here. These last few words in this particular track here, rather than being so quiet comparatively to this first part, they're now about the same volume or a little louder compared to this first part here. That's compression. And the software you see me using here is referred to as a DAW or a DAW or a digital audio workstation. A digital audio workstation is like a worktop. You go into a workshop where a carpenter makes all his crafts. They'll have a worktop in which they do all their activities, they do all their crafts, they do all their woodworking. A digital audio workstation is no different. This is our tabletop. This is where we create, and an engineer creates the songs. There are lots of different types of digital audio workstations. The one I'm using is Logic, but you have other ones like Pro Tools, FL Studio, Cubase, amongst many others. Another popular one is also Ableton. Inside DAWs, we have something called plugins. A plugin is something that you add to an audio track to make it sound different. So compression, which I mentioned just before, that is a type of plugin. You add it, you plug it into an audio track. Engineers use plugins to mix the song, which is another term you'll hear, mixing. When a track is in a state that it's completely finished, what you'll find is there will tend to be a lot of tracks stacked on top of one another. This is what creates the whole song. Mixing is the part where you take each of those tracks, you balance them and you make it sound coherent, and you use the plugins to add different effects and make it sound really nice and pleasing to the listener. There are lots of different ways to mix a song, and if you're mixing a rock song, hip hop, pop, drum and bass, they're all going to be approached and mixed differently. It's often very subjective and there is no one size fits all. Moving on to some effects that you'll use whilst mixing. Delay. Delay, put simply, is an echo. It's where a sound is repeated. The original audio signal will play, and then you will hear the delay afterwards, the echo afterwards. And the delay can be changed. You can alter how soon that echo comes in. You can make it last a long time. You can make it really short and snappy. Delays are very versatile, definitely great to jump in and explore. Multitracking. Multitracking refers to more than one track being recorded. When you're singing, you might find that you're only recording one track. But if you're recording drums, you will find that you will have to multi-track. This just means that there's more than one track being recorded all at once to capture the audio signal. Another instrument you might multi-track is a piano. And if you're recording orchestras, that'll be another example of multi-tracking. Multi-tracking is great for if you want to capture lots of individual instruments or sounds all at the same time so that you can keep that original, really lovely sounding performance. Panning. Panning is where you take something from the left to the right in the ears. So you're wearing some headphones and you hear something in the left headphone and then it pans all the way to the right hand side. That's what that means. Panning, left, right. It's another way and another mixing tool used to create space and depth in a song. Overdub. Overdub is a really common one and you'll probably hear this one a lot. Overdubbing is where you simply go and record over existing tracks. So let's say you've recorded a guitar and you've got the track sounding lovely and great. You might then overdub a bass on top of that. That means you are taking the guitar track that's already been recorded and you are now adding your bass guitar and recording that on top. And then you would overdub all other instruments, maybe drums, piano, and vocals. Reverb. This is one for the vocalists. You know when you're standing in a hall or in a bathroom and you clap your hands and you hear that noise that kind of echoes around the room? If you're in a big cathedral and you shout, your voice kind of trails off for a long, long time. That's reverb. And reverb is where the sound, a sound wave hits a wall, bounces off it and bounces around the room. That's why you get really long, big sounding reverbs in cathedrals and halls, but you get really small, tinny sounding reverbs in bathrooms. Reverbs can be added in the DAW as a plugin to add fullness, depth and character to a mix. Phase is also another effect that will be used. It's where you take one audio signal, let's say a guitar, and then you double it and you put one slightly out of time to the existing signal. And it sounds a little bit weird. It sounds a little bit strange. It doesn't sound like the signal is full. This is really cool and quite commonly used on things like guitars. It creates quite a dreamy sensation. Flanger is another one. Similar to phase, you take one signal, split it into two, and the second signal actually changes over time, so you get a swirly sort of effect. Again, commonly used on guitars, but it can also be used on bass and any other instrument for that matter. Chorus is another effect, similar to phase and flanger. Chorus is used to make it sound like there's more than one thing singing. It splits the signal in two, or into even more, and that second signal is pitched ever so slightly out of tune to the existing track. What this does is it creates a chorus effect. It sounds like there's more than one instrument being played, quite commonly used on guitars and vocals. Tremolo is another effect. Tremolo alters the volume of something. It's where something goes quiet and loud, and you can get different degrees of tremolo, different speeds. You can have it going at a really slow rate or a really quick rate. This can sound really cool and is really popular on guitars. So there's a few terms for you to get stuck into. There are so many more, but these ones are good ones to get started with. And if you understand these, you'll be able to converse your message more clearly with an engineer and producer so that you can actually create the song that you want. If you found this helpful, like and subscribe so you can stick around for more videos. My name's been Luke from Madman Music to help you better understand music and the terminology used in studios. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.